So we're going to resume with the open session. We have 6 concepts to present this afternoon. We're going to have a presentation and a discussion amongst the council members, questions and answers, and then we'll take a vote for each concept as we move through them. So we're going to begin with the building partnerships and broadening perspectives to advance ethical, legal, and social implications research. Rene Sterling is program director in the Division of Genomics and Society, and she'll give the presentation.
Thank you, Rudy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to present this concept on behalf of the ELSI research program. This is for a new RFA, and the acronym I will pronounce as BEAR during this presentation. Issues raised by genomics are increasingly complex and interrelated. Key tenets that guided the ELSI research program when it was established over 30 years ago remain relevant today, including a focus on anticipatory research projects that address coming dilemmas as genetic and genomic science advances, ensuring that ELSI research projects are part of basic science and not conducted on the fringe of genomics or outside of the scientific mainstream, inspiring multidisciplinary collaboration across disciplines and scholars, and utilizing various approaches in ELSI exploration to ensure coverage of all the various angles on an issue. As the science advances, various communities in the general public are called upon for research participation, particularly communities underrepresented in research. Relatively less often are community members invited to be partners in that research that may impact them directly or indirectly or be of interest. We have also found that NIH funding for ELSI research is clustered within a limited set of organizations. The lack of community involvement and the clustering of ELSI research within a narrow pool of organizations poses several challenges and opportunities. Research partnerships with relevant communities can benefit both community members and researchers in a variety of ways, such as increasing public understanding of and interest in ELSI and genomics, increasing the responsiveness of research to community or societal needs, prompting new ideas, research questions, or challenges. Organizations that are currently underrepresented in ELSI research can help facilitate partnerships with communities from the general public who were not previously involved in research. They can inspire the use of different theories, approaches, methods, and tools. And they can also recruit new scholars into the field. Ultimately, expanding involvement in ELSI research can lead to greater innovation and creativity and help illuminate a path toward greater equity in genomics. The BEAR concept seeks to advance ELSI research by broadening the types of knowledge, skills, experience, expertise, and perspectives that are brought to bear in the field. BEAR has 4 components, and I'll describe each in more detail. Transdisciplinary ELSI research, establishing research teams that include representatives from relevant communities who are part of the general public, building ELSI research capacity, and strengthening the ELSI workforce. Before I go into each of the 4 components, I'd like to highlight that eligible applicants for this initiative would include domestic organizations receiving less than $30 million in total NIH funding per year for the past 3 fiscal years. This criteria serves as our definition for underrepresented organizations, as these organizations have not been major recipients of NIH funding for ELSI research. We believe these organizations are viable sources of new ideas, approaches, and community connections. Included in this list of organizations are both academic and non-academic research organizations. And limiting applications in this way allows for competition among a more similar pool of organizations. And these eligibility criteria would not apply to any collaborators that an applicant may want to work with on program implementation. It would just apply to the applicant. So going into the first component, BEAR will support ELSI research projects addressing issues that are anticipated or interrogated in the field at the time of application, projects that require collaboration across multiple disciplines, and projects that fill gaps in knowledge. This concept also calls for transdisciplinary work that in part would foster new scientific approaches that transcend or go beyond any one discipline through transdisciplinary approaches. ELSI research projects would focus on one or more of the 4 areas appearing here. The first, genomics in context, looks at the roles and limitations of genetics and genomics for understanding human health, behavior, and disease. Equity and justice in genomics would address efforts to define and achieve equity in group, community, or population health through the use of genomics, and may relate to biomedicine, public health, behavioral health, or social welfare. Genomics and identity looks at how genetics and genomics impact conceptions of individuals, groups, or populations, their identities, and how those conceived identities can impact perceptions of or experiences with genomic information and technologies. And finally, the genomic landscape examines the use and direction of genetics and genomics by and through a broad range of entities whose mission, scope, or impact go beyond health. For the second component, BEAR will establish research teams that include representatives from communities in the general public who are affected by and have an interest in the topic under study. We will refer to these as relevant communities. So in addition to scholars from varied academic disciplines, research teams will also include representatives from relevant communities. BEAR would utilize a team-based approach that ensures substantive involvement of team members over the course of the research projects proposed, respects and values different types of knowledge that are brought to the table by team members, facilitates bidirectional learning, equips and empowers community representatives for success on their research teams, and identifies and implements opportunities for benefit sharing. BEAR will also build research capacity within underrepresented research organizations. Capacity building plans would be informed by needs assessment and designed to increase an organization's or an investigator's competitiveness for research funding or for recruiting and retaining a talented workforce. Plans could increase research readiness through grantsmanship support or fostering exchange of ideas across programs. Thinking about program sustainability after funding of BEAR would be important, and developing and strengthening equitable partnerships with other organizations, whether they be academic institutions, community-based organizations, or industry. The final component of BEAR will support workforce development with an eye to broadening who is involved in ELSI research and strengthening their contributions. BEAR will increase exposure to and participation in ELSI research with practical experiences working with members of relevant communities. At each site, workforce development efforts may include early career scholars, and these could include undergraduates, post-baccalaureates, pre-docs, postdocs, new or junior faculty. Workforce development efforts may also include research project staff or members of research teams, including the representatives from relevant communities who are research team members. And activities would vary across the program and would be driven by the needs and strengths of each site. So those are the 4 components. Given the large structure, coordination will be important. At the award level, BEAR sites will be guided by an organizational structure and management plan that ensures meaningful involvement and integration of community representatives and any proposed collaborators. The plan will also ensure coordination across the 4 components. At the program level, all BEAR sites would meet annually to discuss goals, project progress, lessons learned, sustainability, and other key issues. There are several other activities that BEAR relates to. I'd point out first that BEAR research projects, or this BEAR initiative, would exceed the scope and scale of a typical ELSI R01 with requirements for community involvement and capacity building. Both of these really add to our overall program portfolio. Second, the Centers for Excellence in ELSI Research program will sunset in 2024, so we've integrated into BEAR some of the more successful components of the CERS, including establishing an area of focus for research, supporting transdisciplinary scholarship, providing opportunities for career development and scholarly exchange across sites. BEAR supports NHGRI's workforce development efforts and also complements other community engagement and capacity building efforts at NHGRI and at NIH. We're proposing a UM1 Cooperative Agreement Award as the funding mechanism. We would release a single RFA with multiple receipt dates and would issue up to 6 active awards with project periods up to 5 years. Direct costs annually would be $650,000 per year for each award. So in summary, these 4 components really strive to broaden the types of contributions made in ELSI research and to grow and enhance the pool of competitive applicants for NIH grants for ELSI research and to advance ELSI research and scholarship. In closing, I'll just, on behalf of the ELSI research program team, thank our extramural colleagues from across scientific areas who really were invaluable in helping us think through this concept and preparing for today's presentation. And we look forward to council's input. I think our Kyle Brothers and Lisa Parker have agreed to open today's discussion. Going in alphabetical order. Kyle.
Hey, Renee, thank you so much. I think this is a really wonderful idea. So many of the underlying assumptions that go into designing this project, I 100% agree with. I think the idea that these institutions with less robust NIH investment over recent years, I completely agree. They hold a lot of promise for folks that could work in this area, but maybe are not yet, or maybe don't have the visibility yet in the field. And I think and there's also folks who have a diversity of different kinds of backgrounds in these institutions that would be really wonderful additions to this field. So really lots and lots of great elements to this idea, and I really am fully supportive. One challenge I think that institutions could encounter in putting together proposals under this kind of concept would be that these institutions tend to be smaller. It may be hard to get together folks from different disciplines who, are interested in working in this area. Let's say someone from philosophy at one of these schools' philosophy department could be just 1 or 2 people, something like that. So I think my advice would be in going into developing, a more full description of this program. Just think about how those institutions, what kind of transdisciplinarity those institutions would be expected to bring to the table, and how could that be evaluated? And because I think the idea would be you don't want to sort of price institutions out of this by sort of requiring more than what most of these types of institutions can bring to the table. So anyway, very supportive. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for that. And I think in response, I would just say quickly that applicants could propose partners. The investigators that are involved in a BEAR project wouldn't have to be from a single department or even a single institution. But we should be sure to make that clear in the funding opportunity. Thank you. Lisa?
So along the same lines, when I first read this, I tried to imagine who would be the research organizations other than smaller academic institutions or institutions that have not yet received large amounts of NIH funding. What non-academic research organizations? And are there even organizations that don't define themselves as research organizations, but that would have research-worthy questions of great importance to understanding ELSI issues, particularly ELSI issues beyond health, that might be able to partner then with academic research organizations. And how might that work, and how might the word get out to them? So I'm not expecting answers to these. I'm just sort of supplying questions that came to mind. It then occurred to me that if there are such collaborations that arise, it will be important for the program to help to ensure that wealthier, more experienced research organizations don't take advantage of this opportunity, even inadvertently, but really are able to develop research capacity that outlasts the particular collaboration, or at least this funding period. It also led me to think about what kind of support does exist for this type of an application, which is beyond the typical R01 as the concept specifies. We have sample applications. I mean, you have sample applications on for R01, for R21, and so on. But there's nothing there. And of course, this mechanism hasn't exactly existed before with this focus to have a sample available. But maybe something, a more robust kind of characterization of what an application would look like would be necessary if we really want to have people, organizations that have never applied for something like this before. Even thinking of some academic institutions like a small law school, right, that hasn't gone for this kind of empirical research collaborative funding before. And then finally, I think careful attention needs to be paid to what degree of specificity and detail will be expected in terms of characterizing or describing the transdisciplinary research projects that are a part of this. Because it is hard, especially for people new to research, to transdisciplinary research, to writing research proposals and so on, to know how much of this they need to have worked out already to be convincing. And again, some degree of characterizing this of, this is more than is necessary, this is too thin, this is the right kind of level of specificity and worked out detail would be really, really helpful. And again, earlier today it was mentioned, going to some meetings. This may be a case of trying to go to some meetings or getting some articles, announcements into unusual places, the Chronicle of Higher Education or something, so that it would reach some of the institutions of higher education that haven't gone through this kind of a mechanism or opportunity before, and then figure out how to reach the research organizations that aren't academic institutions as well. What a challenge. But this only speaks to how exciting the opportunity really is. So
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Those are very important. It's very helpful feedback. I could comment on them, but I think I'll just note that some of them we've thought a bit about and are wanting to reach out to other program directors who have tried to do similar things, and to other ICs to think about what mailing lists we could get this out on. I think also a webinar, pre-application webinar would be really critical here, where we could speak to some of the things that you're mentioning. So thank you. Are there
Comments
other-
from other council members?
Nancy.
Nancy, go ahead.
Oh, you're muted, Nancy.
Just a thought. When we've worked with institutions with much less experience in NIH-based grant writing, the sites that you have that explain how to do a lot of the grant writing have been very, very helpful to them. And so I would strongly urge that be a prominent and easily found part of the RFA, because I think it does really help. And you guys, I thought you did, I looked at some of those before we recommended them, and I thought people had done a really good job. And while it's true that there isn't anything exactly like this mechanism already in place, the processes of getting the stuff together for the necessary forms together is largely the same. And the other thing was, I also wondered about how you get this information out to precisely those kinds of places that you hope to get applications when they are so much less likely to be looking to NIH for funding. And I know there must be ways, but I don't know them, and I don't know how. I mean, it's sort of like, that's really thinking outside the box. You know, how do you get to people that you know are not usually watching you? So it would be good, I think, it would be nice if people reached out to institutions, you know, sort of everybody in our circle, everybody at this meeting, for example, reach out to institutions that they thought would meet these criteria and urge them to think about it. I think sometimes that might be all it would take.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think another thing we've thought about is, again, in addition to reaching out to other ISCs and thinking about their listservs, we also have ELSI Hub, which many of you are aware of, and they've been very helpful with outreach into people who may not self-identify as ELSI researchers. But I do think we need to add to our list of venues and avenues for dissemination. So we'll be exploring that further. Iftikhar?
Yes, thank you, Rene. I just had a question about the last line in the concept. And you say that there'll be 5 active awards. There'll be multiple dates. And so are you planning to stagger the awards? Like there'll be 1 or 2 a cycle, or what are your thoughts on how these will be funded?
Well, I think we want to be flexible, have some flexibility around when applications might come in and allow for resubmission. So we're thinking multiple receipt dates, but the exact, timing of the awards would depend on what applications come in when. So, we wouldn't exceed our cap number. It may be that we get 1 in the first year, 3 in the second, none in the third. We don't. It's hard to anticipate, but wanted to have some flexibility around that. Did you have a particular concern or?
No, I was just wondering how you would work through this. I mean, if you got 4 excellent applications the first cycle, would you fund all 4?
Well, everything is contingent on availability of funding, so we'd have to see. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other obvious utility of multiple receipt dates is it gives people a chance to revise and resubmit. So, other comments from council? If not, can I have a motion to approve the concept? Second, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone wishing to abstain? All right, thank you very much, but Rene, don't go away.
I'm right here, ready to go. Thank you for checking on me.